Part 1. The Flyers and the Mirage. The midday sun beat down mercilessly on the flagstones of the central pedestrian plaza. Kalen adjusted the strap of his faded canvas bag, shifting the weight of a fresh stack of marketing flyers. To anyone passing by, he looked like just another university student grinding through a low-wage summer gig, sweating for pocket change. He wore plain sneakers, an unbranded t-shirt, and a quiet, unassuming expression. In reality, Kalen's family owned 72 of the premium commercial storefronts lining that very street. He didn't need the money, nor did he need the exercise. He simply believed in understanding the foundational layers of business from the ground up, keeping his head down and his true background entirely detached from his campus life. As he handed a glossy pamphlet to a passing shopper, a sharp, familiar roar echoed down the boulevard. A sleek, low-slung luxury sports car swept around the corner, its pristine metallic coat gleaming under the sun. It pulled up to the curb, just 50 yards away. Kalen's breath caught, not because of the vehicle, which he recognized down to the exact stitching on the leather interior, but because of the silhouette laughing inside the passenger seat. It was Chloe, his girlfriend of over a year. Kalen walked over, his steps heavy but measured. Through the tinted glass, he saw her disheveled hair, her flushed face, and her arms wrapped tightly around Julian, the undisputed school hunk of the university campus. They were locked in a passionate embrace, entirely oblivious to the world outside. Kalen rapped his knuckles sharply against the driver's side window. The glass rolled down halfway. Julian leaned back against the headrest, a smug, arrogant smirk plastered across his face. He looked Kalen up and down, taking in the cheap flyers and the plain clothes. "Who's this guy?" Julian asked, his voice dripping with amusement as he glanced at Chloe. Chloe didn't even have the decency to look flustered. She leaned heavily against Julian's shoulder, looking at Kalen as if he were an insect that had landed on her shoe. "Just a simp," she scoffed loudly, ensuring her voice carried across the pavement. "If you don't like him hanging around, Julian, I'll break up with him right now. He's been anchoring me down anyway." She turned back to Julian, planting a lingering kiss right on his cheek, completely ignoring Kalen's presence as if their entire year of history meant absolutely nothing. Before diving into the video, did you know that over 80% of you watching right now aren't subscribed? Your one like and one subscribe means the absolute world to this channel and helps us keep going. Hit those buttons real quick, and let's get into the video. Part 2. Ownership and Deception. Julian licked his lips right where Chloe had kissed him, letting out a loud, mocking laugh. "You heard her, bro, move along. True beauties only belong to the strong and the successful. Go back to handing out your little papers." Kalen stood his ground, his expression remaining completely unbothered. The initial sting of betrayal quickly hardened into cold amusement. "I honestly don't care about her anymore," Kalen said, his voice deadly calm. "But I do have one very specific question. Why exactly are the two of you fooling around in my car?" The smug smile vanished from Julian's face. The atmosphere turned instantly awkward. Julian's fingers gripped the leather-wrapped steering wheel a little tighter as he stared back, visibly dumbfounded. "What do you mean, your car? Are you delusional from the heat? This is my ride." "Is it?" Kalen reached through the open window, popped the latch to the glove compartment, and pulled out the thick leather vehicle folder. He flipped it open to the registration documents and held them flat against the glass. "Take a look at the owner's name. That's my legal name. I dropped this car off at the local automotive shop 48 hours ago for a routine service and detailing. Your dad is the head mechanic there, isn't he?" Julian's face went from pale to a deep, burning crimson in a matter of seconds. He scrambled out of the driver's seat, his cool demeanor entirely shattering. He dragged Kalen a few paces away from the car, whispering frantically, Bro, please don't call the cops. Don't do this. My dad saw how nice the car looked and said it needed a test run after the alignment. I just borrowed it for a quick spin to impress Chloe. Please don't ruin my life." Kalen raised his voice, letting it echo across the sidewalk so passers-by could hear. "You call this borrowing? This is unauthorized use and grand theft. Can repair shops just steal high-end vehicles whenever they want to take a girl for a ride? Julian lowered his head, tears of panic welling in his eyes. Bro, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't get familiar with me. Kalen snapped, walking back to the vehicle. Let me check the condition of my property first. Part 3. The price of self-fear. It didn't take long for Kalen to spot the issue. Right on the center of the hood, the light caught a distinct, ugly structural dent. The smooth, aerodynamic curve of the vehicle was completely ruined. What is this? Kalen demanded, pointing at the damage. Julian panicked, pointing a trembling finger back at the passenger seat. It's not my fault. I swear it's not my fault. Chloe insisted on sitting right on the hood to take selfies for her social media. She wanted to show off to everyone that she was riding in a $1 million car. She posted a whole bunch of provocative photos on her WeChat moments just 10 minutes ago. That's the evidence, I swear. Kalen pulled out his own phone and checked his feed. His screen was completely blank. He looked up at Julian, who quickly unlocked his own phone to show Kalen the posts. It became immediately clear. Chloe had blocked Kalen from viewing her timeline before she ever sat on the car, ensuring he wouldn't see her cheating or using the vehicle. Looking at the photos on Julian's screen, Kalen let out a cold laugh. Bold photos. Well, both of you can go ahead and prepare for a formal court summons. I'm keeping screenshots of these posts as explicit evidence of property damage. Julian's voice trembled. Bro, is it going to cost a lot to fix? It's specialized carbon fiber, Kalen replied coldly. Only high-end performance cars use this specific weave. The hotter the weather gets, the more rigid it is, but it cannot handle localized weight pressure like someone stamping or sitting on it before the material warms up correctly. To replace and paint match this entire panel at an authorized dealership, you're looking at easily $100,000. Julian's face turned entirely pale. He looked like he was about to faint. But she did it. Why do I have to pay too? You stole the keys from your father's shop, Kalen said. You are both legally responsible. Your dad's hard work for the entire year is officially gone down the drain. Leaving Julian weeping openly on the side of the road, Kalen got into the driver's seat, rolled up the windows to drown out the noise of the school hunks crying, and called his personal insurance adjuster to document the incident. Part 4. The Strategic Retreat. As Kalen drove away to drop the car off at a corporate dealership, his phone buzzed. It was a text message from Chloe. Since you saw it, let's just make it official. Let's break up. Don't blame me, Kalen. Blame your parents for being absolute losers who couldn't provide a future for you. I'd rather cry in the passenger seat of a Lamborghini than laugh on the back of your bicycle while you hand out flyers for minimum wage. Kalen stared at the text, thoroughly amused by the sheer density of her ignorance. Since both the sports car and the bicycle belonged to him, he wondered briefly if she was supposed to cry or laugh. He began typing out a response. Save your breath and wait for the legal papers, but when he hit send, a red exclamation mark popped up. She had already blocked his number entirely. He pulled over, his mind shifting from the relationship to his personal finances. Over the course of their one-year relationship, Kalen had bought Chloe a high-end smartphone, countless designer bags, and sent her direct monetary transfers because she constantly complained about her family's tight budget. Knowing Chloe's opportunistic personality, if he revealed his actual wealth right now, she would shamelessly crawl back, make excuses, and try to cling to him to avoid the debt. He needed to retrieve his physical property first before dropping the hammer. Kalen drove to the university campus and walked straight into the girls' dormitory building. Since it was early in the morning and most students were either asleep or at early lectures, the hallways were mostly empty. He marched up to the third floor and approached Chloe's room. He raised his hand to knock, but paused when he heard loud, excited chatter echoing through the thin door. Did you really do what I told you to do? A sharp voice asked from inside. It belonged to Sabrina, Chloe's toxic best friend. Yes, Chloe's voice replied, sounding a mix of nervous and thrilled. I lied to Julian and told him I took the morning after pill last week. I made sure we went out during my peak window. Sabrina squealed with excitement. That is perfect. I calculated your cycle perfectly. I knew you were highly likely to get pregnant these few days. That's why I pushed you to go on that date and cut that flyer boy loose. Once you have a baby inside you, you are legally locked into a wealthy family for life. His family owns a luxury repair shop. They have endless cash. What if he tries to force me to get an abortion? Chloe asked worriedly. Please, Sabrina scoffed. As long as you're pregnant, I have a dozen ways to make him and his parents acknowledge that child. You literally threw away your boyfriend for him on a public street. They won't dare face the public backlash if they abandon you. Kalen stood in the hallway, completely disgusted. He couldn't believe how deep the rabbit hole went. They genuinely believed Julian was a young billionaire, completely unaware that the rich guy was currently crying his eyes out over a stolen car. Kalen knocked heavily on the door. Part 5. The Academic Confrontation. The door swung open, and Chloe's expression instantly soured into a deep frown when she saw Kalen standing there. Are you serious right now? Chloe hissed, crossing her arms. I already texted you that we are finished. Why are you pestering me in my dorm? I'm telling you, Kalen, being poor is one thing, but being poor and shamelessly stalking a girl after she dumps you is utterly disgusting. Inside the room sat Sabrina and their third roommate, a quiet girl named Maya who was usually buried in her textbooks. Sabrina immediately stood up, joining Chloe at the door with a look of supreme arrogance. Can you stop hindering Chloe from pursuing her own happiness? Look at you, standing there in your flyer-distributing clothes. Have some dignity. Kalen walked right past them into the room, entirely unbothered by the insults. We could break up. That's perfectly fine. But the premium phone you are currently holding in your hand was bought with my money under a contract in my name. Return it to me right now. Chloe sneered coldly. Wow, so you're really that petty? You can't even consider my feelings after a breakup? You cheated on me in broad daylight, Kalen replied evenly. Why exactly should I care about your feelings? Sabrina let out a loud, dramatic laugh, covering her mouth. Oh, Chloe, can't you see through this poor loser's pathetic little trick? Asking for the phone back is just a pretense. He knows he can't afford to lose a gorgeous girl like you. So he's trying to make things difficult so you won't leave him. Chloe raised her head proudly, her eyes flashing with disdain. Is that it, Kalen? Do you think I care about this stupid phone? Have you forgotten who my current man is? He drives a car that costs more than your parents will see in 3 lifetimes. Sabrina added fuel to the fire, smirking maliciously. Don't be scared, sis. I just looked up that specific sport car model on the forums. It costs millions. Buying you a brand new upgraded phone is pocket change to a guy like Julian. Chloe laughed, holding up the phone. I'll give you your stupid phone back, but let me make one last call on speaker first. I want you to hear exactly what a real, powerful man sounds like. I want you to realize that the gap between you and a wealthy elite is a canyon you will never bridge in your entire miserable existence. Kalen leaned against the desk, calmly gesturing for her to proceed. Go ahead. Make the call. Part 6. Speakerphone Reality. Chloe dialed Julian's number and proudly hit the speakerphone button, holding the device out like a trophy so the entire room could hear. The line rang twice before connecting. Before Chloe could even utter a sweet greeting, a violent, raging scream shattered the silence of the dorm room. You absolute casually offensive bitch. Julian roared through the speaker, his voice cracking with sheer terror and fury. Don't you ever call my phone again. If I ever see your face on this campus, I swear I will beat you down until you can't walk. You ruined my life. You ruined my entire family. The call instantly disconnected with a sharp click. The entire room went dead silent. Chloe stood completely frozen, her arms still extended, her mouth slightly open. Beside her, Sabrina's arrogant smirk instantly evaporated into pure shock. Sabrina was the first to snap out of it. She grabbed a heavy textbook from her desk and hurled it directly at Kalen's chest. What did you do? She screamed, her face contorting with rage. You went downstairs and badmouthed Chloe to Julian, didn't you? You slandered her because you couldn't handle being dumped. Chloe began shaking, tears of anger rising to her eyes. Yeah, he was perfectly fine this morning. You must have told him disgusting lies about me. How low can you possibly be, Kalen? You're a disgusting, pathetic snake. I didn't say a single word about her character to him, Kalen said smoothly, batting the textbook aside. Just give me the phone and let me finish my math. Kalen sat down at the study desk, pulled out a notepad, and opened his banking app. He began meticulously listing every single direct transfer, luxury gift, and paid bill he had provided Chloe over the past 12 months. Sabrina sneered, stepping in front of Chloe protectively. "This is exactly why I told Chloe to run away from a poor loser like you. You have no ambition, no career goals, and you just sit here in a girl's dorm calculating pennies like a peasant while real men are out changing the world. I'm taking a photo of your pathetic face right now and posting it to the campus board to make sure you are socially dead by tonight." True to her word, Sabrina snapped a picture of Kalen sitting at the desk and instantly uploaded it with a caption warning all university girls to avoid low-class, vindictive scumbags who count pennies after a breakup. Kalen checked his phone, saw the post, and simply nodded. "You two love talking about poverty and wealth, but you might as well just write gold digger across your foreheads. It would save everyone a lot of time." From the corner of the room, Maya finally closed her textbook with a sharp snap. Her face was flushed with anger. "Chloe, stop this. Just pay him back what you owe him. This entire situation is your fault in the first place. You cheated on him." Chloe's eyes widened in disbelief. "Maya, whose side are you on? Are you seriously defending this loser?" Sabrina let out a venomous laugh. "Oh, please look at her. Maya is just jealous because you scored a guy with a luxury sports car while she's stuck here living on student loans and scholarships. She's taking his side because she identifies with the lower class." Maya stood up, her fists tightly clenched. "I work 2 part-time tutoring jobs to pay for my books, and I earn my own living. There is nothing shameful about that." Sabrina looked at her with utter disgust. "To a beggar like you, even mosquito legs are considered meat. Yesterday, I literally saw you pick up a piece of bread that fell on the study table and eat it. You poor wretch, of course you don't have high standards for men. You're probably waiting for Chloe to throw Kalen away, so you can swoop in and take her leftovers." "Enough." Chloe slammed her hands on the table. "Kalen, you are a complete embarrassment. Hurry up and give me the total so I can clear this debt, get my man back, and never look at your face again." Part 7. The Debt of Illusion. Kalen tapped his pen against the paper and turned the notepad around. "In the 1 year we dated between the phone, the designer bag Sabrina convinced you to demand, and the direct rent coverage, the total comes out to exactly $18,000. Both Chloe and Sabrina froze. To a group of average university students who relied on parental allowances, $18,000 was a massive, insurmountable sum of money. They snatched the notepad, frantically checking the bank statements Kalen displayed on his screen. Every single digit was accurate. $18,000, Chloe whispered, her voice losing all of its previous confidence. I don't have that right now." Sabrina panicked, grabbing Chloe's shoulders. "Don't show weakness to this loser, Chloe. Your attitude right now determines how Julian will see you when we clear up this misunderstanding. If we have to borrow from every classmate we know, or even hit up the private lenders online, we pay him off right now. You need to completely cut ties with this peasant if you want to marry into a wealthy family." Driven by sheer delusion, the two girls began frantically messaging their social circles. Because Sabrina had spent weeks hyping up Chloe's new billionaire boyfriend and posting photos of the luxury car, their classmates genuinely believed Chloe was on the verge of marrying in a high society. Believing they were securing a favor with a future wealthy elite, classmates quickly Venmo'd small sums, a few hundred here, 1,000 there. Within an hour, they raised $8,000, but they hit a hard wall. The remaining $10,000 was nowhere to be found. Sabrina gritted her teeth, pulling out a specific contact card on her phone. "I know a guy who runs private credit lines around the campus district. He's connected to some rough people, but Julian is rich. $10,000 is nothing to him once you explain the situation. I'll call him." A short while later, a shady, professional-looking private lender met Sabrina at the edge of the campus gate, handing over $10,000 in cash after making her sign a high-interest short-term contract. Back in the room, Chloe snatched the cash, combined it with the rest, and slammed the entire pile of $18,000 along with the smartphone directly onto the desk in front of Kalen. "There is your blood money, you petty cockroach. Now get out of my sight and never look at me again." Kaylin calmly packed the cash into his canvas bag, picked up the phone, and turned to Maya, who was still trembling with residual anger from the insults. Maya, can you step out into the hallway with me for a moment? Sabrina instantly cackled. Look at that. I called it. The flyer boy and the scholarship beggar are officially linking up. Birds of a feather really do flock together. Maya lowered her head, her cheeks burning with humiliation, but she followed Kaylin out into the quiet corridor anyway. Part 8. Dignity and the Discovery. Out in the hallway, Maya wiped a stray tear from her eye. Kaylin, please don't misinterpret why I spoke up. I don't have any hidden intentions. I just want to focus on my studies, get my degree, and maintain my dignity. I don't care about relationships. I know, Kaylin said gently. You're a disciplined, honorable person. The only reason I asked you out here is because you serve on the Student Council Administration, right? Do you have access to the campus residential directory? Maya looked confused. Yes, I do. What? I need Chloe's permanent, legal home address, Kaylin explained calmly. The insurance company and my family's legal team are preparing a formal court summons for major property damage, and I need her official residence to serve the papers. Maya panicked, grabbing his arm in a sudden rush of anxiety. Kaylin, please don't do anything reckless. I know she hurt you, and I know she cheated, but don't ruin your own academic future or resort to violence over someone like her. We might be poor, but we have our dignity. You are a hardworking guy. You have a future. In 10 years, she will look back and regret everything she did to you. Don't throw your life away. Kaylin looked down at her hand on his arm, a soft smile breaking across his face. Maya, it's not going to take 10 years. And I'm not using violence. The luxury sports car downstairs that she dented, it belongs to me. Maya froze. She stared at him as if he were speaking a foreign language. What? What do you mean it belongs to you? Kaylin pulled out his secondary phone, opened his vehicle management app, and pulled up the original titanium digital ownership certificate, complete with his full name, matching the registration documents. He explained the entire truth, the 72 stores, the repair shop theft, and the actual origin of the car. Maya stood in the hallway for a full 2 minutes, completely speechless, her mind trying to process the fact that the quiet flyer boy was the actual owner of the empire Chloe had been trying to climb into. When she finally went to retrieve the address from the office, she walked as if she were moving through a vivid dream. Part 9. The Screaming Line. Kaylin walked back into the dorm room to hand the phone back to Chloe temporarily, knowing he'd need an active line to coordinate the legal processing later. The moment he stepped inside, Sabrina practically feigned vomiting. Oh my God, I'm actually going to puke, Sabrina groaned, clutching her chest. Look at this simp. He literally can't stay away. He's trying to play the on-again, off-again game just to keep talking to you, Chloe. Before Chloe could unleash another insult, Sabrina's phone began violently vibrating on the mattress. She picked it up, her brow furrowing in confusion. Chloe, why is your mother calling my phone? Chloe snatched the device, hitting answer. Mom? Why are you calling Sabrina's phone? I told you I was busy. She didn't even get to finish her sentence. Her mother's voice was amplified so loudly through the receiver that every word cut through the room like a buzzsaw. Don't you dare call me M.O.M. The woman screamed, her voice cracked with raw, hysterical terror. Do you have any idea what your father and I do for a living? We break our backs every single day, and you ruined us. You completely destroyed this entire family. Chloe stumbled backward, her face draining of color. Mom, what are you talking about? What'd I do? She retreated to the far corner of the room, clutching the phone to her ear as her mother continued to scream. Within seconds, Chloe burst into violent, messy tears, her knees buckling as she slid down to the floor. Sabrina rushed over, kneeling beside her. Chloe, sis, what's wrong? What did she say? Chloe sobbed, so hard she could barely choke out the words. The repair bill. Julian didn't get mad at me because of Kaylin. The dealership just delivered an official vehicle damage assessment directly to my parents' house because Julian's dad identified my social media posts. The carbon fiber hood is structurally ruined from where I sat on it. The total repair cost is $137,000. My parents said if we don't pay it, the owner is filing criminal charges for property destruction. Sabrina gasped, her eyes wide. $137,000 just for sitting on a car hood? That's impossible. Julian is a billionaire. Why is his family sending the bill to your parents? My mom sent the pictures of the legal notice to my phone. Chloe wept, her hands shaking as she pulled up her notifications. Sabrina's brain scrambled for a solution. Wait, don't panic. We still have the plan. We need to find out if you're pregnant right now. If you are carrying Julian's child, his wealthy parents won't dare demand a single cent from us. We'll go down there, make a massive scene at his house, and force them to drop the charges and cover the bill. Kaylin, still standing by the door, let out a soft sigh. I wouldn't advise doing that. Chloe shot him a venomous, hateful glare through her tears. Shut your mouth. Get out of here. I don't want to hear a single word from a pathetic loser like you while my life is falling apart. Sabrina pointed fiercely at the door. Get lost, scumbag. We're trying to handle a real crisis with an elite family. If you stay here harassing Chloe, we will call campus security and see you in court. Kaylin nodded, a calm smile resting on his face. All right, we'll definitely see each other in court. Part 10, The Fall of the Hunk. Chloe frantically sent a voice note to Julian, begging him to meet her in the courtyard outside the dormitory. Julian's response was instant, loud, and vicious. Come down right now, you curse word slut. I'm waiting. Determined to execute their pregnancy leverage plan, Sabrina helped a trembling Chloe to her feet, and the two girls marched downstairs, completely ignoring Kaylin and Maya, who followed a short distance behind. The moment they stepped out of the dormitory glass doors, they realized a massive crowd of hundreds of students had gathered around the plaza. In the center of the crowd stood Julian. The typical arrogant, pristine campus hunk was completely unrecognizable. His clothes were rumpled, his hair was a mess, and there was a massive, swelling, dark purple slap mark stretching across his left cheek. He was standing by the curb, weeping openly and wiping his nose with the back of his sleeve. Sabrina blinked in confusion, whispering to Chloe, "Wow, look at how much he cares about that car. They say a luxury vehicle is a man's second wife. He must be completely devastated by the damage." Chloe wiped her tears, putting on her most pitiful, victimized expression, and limped forward. "Julian, baby, please let me explain. It was an accident. I didn't know. Explain to your grandfather, you stupid bitch." Julian roared. He lunged forward with explosive violence. Before anyone could react, Julian grabbed Chloe by her hair, yanked her forward, and delivered a brutal, ringing slap straight across her face. The force of the blow knocked her flat onto the asphalt. Sabrina screamed, trying to pull Julian back. "Are you crazy? Julian, she's a girl. She loves you." But Julian was entirely consumed by survival terror. He pinned Chloe down, delivering two heavy punches directly to her face. "Your love ruined my life. My dad beat me half to death this morning. We are getting evicted from our shop because of the legal fees." With one final, brutal strike, a sharp cracking sound echoed through the courtyard. Chloe let out a horrific shriek, covering her mouth as blood instantly spilled through her fingers. She spit a heavy glob of crimson onto the pavement, along with her entire upper right front tooth. "My tooth," Chloe wailed, her voice completely distorted and lisping. "My tooth is gone. Sabrina, get some milk. Get some milk to save it." Kaylin stood beside Maya in the crowd, nodding approvingly. "She's actually right about that. If you place a knocked-out tooth in milk within 30 minutes, the root cells survive and a surgeon can reattach it." Maya turned to Kaylin, her eyes wide with shock. "Kaylin, are you seriously smiling right now while she's getting beaten?" "I'm just a naturally cheerful guy, Maya," Kaylin replied smoothly, his hands in his pockets. "People who smile often tend to have much better luck in life." Part 11, The Asphalt Confession. Through her blood and tears, Chloe looked up and spotted Kaylin standing perfectly calm in the crowd. "Kaylin," she shrieked, her voice cracking. "Are you even a man? Look at what he's doing to me. Help me. You literally just told me downstairs that if I spoke to you, you'd sue me for harassment, Kalen replied, loudly, so the crowd could hear. I'm just respecting your legal boundaries. Hearing Kalen's voice, Julian abruptly stopped raining blows on Chloe. He wiped the sweat and tears from his face, turned around, and locked eyes with Kalen. Sabrina, still trying to salvage the situation, pointed at Kalen and yelled at Julian. Julian, deal with him. This flyer boy loser has been bullying Chloe all morning, trying to ruin her reputation because he couldn't handle her moving up to a real man like you. Julian didn't move toward Kalen with anger. Instead, his entire body began to tremble violently. In front of the entire university student body, the campus hunk walked up to the flyer boy, his knees buckled, and he dropped heavily onto the rough asphalt. Julian slammed his forehead against Kalen's sneakers, weeping uncontrollably. Bro, Kalen, I'm so sorry. Please, I beg you, don't press criminal charges. Don't destroy my father. I was a disgusting, arrogant idiot. I shouldn't have stolen your luxury sports car from the shop. I shouldn't have used your property to trick your girlfriend. Please give us time to pay. The entire courtyard fell into a dead, suffocating silence. Hundreds of students stared at Kalen, their jaws dropping. Sabrina's voice died in her throat, her face freezing into a mask of pure horror. Chloe, missing a tooth, blood pouring from her nose and choking her throat, stared at the scene from the ground. Her voice was a ragged whisper. What did you say? Stole whose car? Kalen looked down at the weeping hunk. Your dad is a good, honest mechanic, Julian. I specifically sent my vehicle to his shop to support his business. It's a shame he raised a son who uses his clients' multi-million-dollar assets to play billionaire on campus. Chloe's mind finally shattered. The pieces connected with the force of a freight train. She looked at Kalen's plain clothes, then thought of the luxury sports car, and realized the staggering truth. The flyer boy she had discarded like trash was the actual owner of the empire she had been desperately trying to claw her way into. She crawled forward on her hands and knees, dragging herself through the dirt, trying to reach Kalen's legs. Kalen, baby, I was tricked. I swear I was manipulated. She turned around, pointing a bloody, shaking finger at Sabrina. It was her. Sabrina calculated my cycle. Sabrina told me to cheat on you. She told me you were a loser. I always loved you, Kalen. Please, give me another chance. Sabrina stood frozen, her face completely blank as the underworld loan shark debt flashed through her mind. Kalen stepped back, avoiding Chloe's bloody fingers. He looked down at Julian. You made a massive mistake, but you're right about one thing. Your father shouldn't suffer for your stupidity. You graduate next year. I will instruct my legal team to allow you to pay the $137,000 repair bill over a structured 3-year period once you start working. Julian looked up, wiping his eyes. Really? Thank you, bro. Thank you. He then glared viciously at Chloe. And don't look at me for a single cent of medical compensation for your face. I'd rather go to jail and have a criminal record than give this gold-digging bitch a single penny. Kalen patted Julian's shoulder. Sensible choice. I'll waive $1,000 off your debt as a reward for clarity. Kalen then looked down at Chloe one final time. Make sure you take that morning after pill. Not because I care about you, but because an innocent life shouldn't be brought into this world or aborted over a character as utterly rotten as yours. He turned, walked over to his pristine sports car parked nearby, and opened the door. He looked back at Maya. Since the trash has been cleared out, want to grab a nice meal to celebrate? You can ride in the passenger seat. Maya looked at the luxury car, then looked at him and calmly shook her head. Are you drunk in broad daylight, Kalen? Why would I get into a car with a guy I barely know just because he's rich? I have a tutoring shift in 20 minutes. Kalen paused, scratched his nose awkwardly, and smiled. Fair point. He hopped into the driver's seat, started the engine, and tore away from the campus, leaving the courtyard in a state of absolute, chaotic ruin. Part 12. The Ledger of Echoes. The consequences of that morning rippled through the university for the rest of the year, settling the accounts exactly as they were earned. Chloe's parents were forced to liquidate their meager savings to cover her half of the vehicle damage settlement. In their absolute fury over their financial ruin, her father beat her so severely at home that he physically fractured her leg. Because they couldn't afford premium orthopedic care, the bones set incorrectly. Chloe was left with a permanent, severe limp. Completely disfigured from the loss of her teeth and crippled by her injury, she dropped out of college before the next semester even began. She spent the next year using burner phone numbers to send Kaylin endless paragraphs of desperate apologies, until Kaylin's legal team filed a formal harassment lawsuit, threatening her with jail time if she ever contacted him again. She vanished entirely. Sabrina's fate was a slow, grinding misery. She returned to the university, but the campus board post she had uploaded backfired spectacularly. The entire student body realized she was the mastermind behind a failed pregnancy trap and a traitor to her own roommates. Worse, the underworld loan shark didn't care about her social status. When a short-term contract expired, his thugs began showing up at her classes, threatening her with physical violence if the $10,000 wasn't paid with interest. Desperate and blacklisted from every reputable part-time job on campus due to her toxic reputation, Sabrina eventually found Kaylin at one of his family's low-end commercial properties. She dropped to her knees, crying and begging him for any employment just to survive the interest payments. Kaylin gave her a job. He hired her at a busy, high-traffic fast food joint on the pedestrian street, specifically assigning her to clean the public restrooms. The girl who had spent her life mocking the working class and spitting on the poor now spent 8 hours a day scrubbing toilets for them. Word traveled fast across the university. Groups of students would regularly visit that specific restaurant just to use the facilities, ensuring Sabrina had to go back in and scrub the stalls all over again while weeping into her bucket. As for Maya, she remained entirely unchanged. She never asked Kaylin for a single dollar. She never brought up his wealth, and she completely ignored any attempts from other students to link them together. She maintained her fierce, quiet independence, graduating at the top of her class with absolute honors. After graduation, she turned down high-paying corporate offers in the city. Instead, she packed her bags and returned to her deeply impoverished rural hometown to work as a primary school teacher, dedicated to lifting underprivileged children out of poverty through education. The only time Kaylin ever heard from her again was a brief, professional email a year later, asking if his family's logistics company could help coordinate a charity clothing drive for the freezing children in her mountain village. Kaylin personally funded and shipped thousands of winter coats to her district. Sitting in his office overlooking the pedestrian street, Kaylin would occasionally look out at the bustling crowd below, always remembering the quiet scholarship girl who refused to get into a sports car, and her words echoed clearly in his mind. "We might be poor, but we have our dignity." Part 13. The Crimson Thread. 2 years after the shadows of the university campus had cleared, Kaylin's lifestyle had evolved, but his core values remained completely untouched. He had formally assumed management over a significant portion of his family's commercial real estate portfolio, dividing his time between corporate strategy meetings and walking the very pavement where he once distributed flyers. He still wore plain clothes on his site visits, firmly believing that a true businessman measures his empire with his boots on the ground, not from a penthouse window. It was during a late autumn charity gala, an event organized by the city's educational foundation, that Kaylin first crossed paths with Vivian. Unlike the high society debutantes who spent the evening floating toward Kaylin the moment his family name was announced, Vivian spent her time tucked away near the presentation boards. She was an independent pediatric architectural consultant, working to design sustainable, low-cost schools for rural districts. She wore a simple, elegant dark emerald dress, completely devoid of flashy designer logos, and her hair was pulled back in a neat, professional style that reminded Kaylin instantly of the quiet dignity he had always respected. When Kaylin approached her, deliberately holding a plain glass of water and keeping his family title out of the conversation, he asked her about the blueprint she was reviewing. Vivian didn't look at his watch or scan his clothes for signs of wealth. Instead, her eyes lit up with genuine, fierce passion as she explained how proper classroom ventilation and natural light could completely transform the learning capabilities of underprivileged children. Wealth should be a foundation for building others up, not a pedestal to look down from, Vivian said softly, tracing the lines of a schoolhouse roof on her tablet. If a structure doesn't serve the community around it, it's just a hollow monument to someone's ego. Kalen listened to her speak for over an hour, his heart stirring in a way it never had before. Vivian was brilliant, self-reliant, and carried an innate moral compass that owed nothing to the material world. When he later offered to walk her to her vehicle, he didn't call for his luxury sports car. He simply walked beside her through the cool autumn air, listening to her laugh. For the first time in his life, Kalen knew he hadn't just found someone compatible. He had found a girl whose soul perfectly mirrored his own definition of dignity. Part 14. A Legacy Earned. 3 years later, the Central Pedestrian Plaza was closed to the public for a private celebration that the local shopkeepers would talk about for decades. The 72 storefronts were draped in elegant fairy lights and white floral arrangements, celebrating the marriage and subsequent life that Kalen and Vivian had built together. The evening was filled with a warm, lively energy, completely free of the toxic pretension that had defined Kalen's past. Sitting at the head table, Kalen looked across the room at his family. His parents sat beside Vivian's mother and father, sharing stories and laughing over a simple, beautifully prepared meal. There were no high society barriers between them. Both families shared a profound respect for hard work and mutual humility. Vivian sat beside him, her hand resting comfortably in his, glowing with the early radiance of her first pregnancy. Her architectural firm had successfully partnered with Kalen's logistics empire, establishing over 30 fully funded rural schools across the country, including a massive educational complex in Maya's village, which Maya now managed as the principal. During the reception, Kalen looked out toward the edge of the pedestrian street where the fast food restaurant stood. Sabrina was no longer there. Her debt had finally been cleared after years of labor, and she had quietly moved away, completely broken of her arrogance and permanently erased from their lives. The past was an old ledger that had been balanced and closed forever. As the music played softly in the background, Kalen raised his glass to his family, his wife, and a future generation growing inside her. He had started his journey surrounded by wealth, but lacking genuine loyalty. Now, he stood at the center of an unbreakable circle of true love, massive abundance, and an honorable legacy that would stretch far into the future. Part 15. The Golden Hour. 10 years later, the Central Pedestrian Plaza remained the thriving heart of the family's legacy, but Kalen's favorite view of it was from the small, sunlit balcony of a modest second-story office. He stood leaning against the iron railing, a warm cup of coffee in his hand, watching the afternoon sun cast long, amber shadows across the stones below. Down in the plaza, the next generation was already making its mark. His 8-year-old son, Arthur, was running through the open spaces, laughing as he chased a stray balloon. Beside him walked Vivian, looking every bit as radiant as the day they married, her hand resting gently on the shoulder of their 6-year-old daughter, Clara. They were returning from the local bookstore, completely unbothered by the luxury vehicles parked near the curb or the fact that their family owned the very ground they walked upon. The door behind Kalen creaked open, and Vivian stepped onto the balcony, slipping her arms around his waist from behind. Arthur says he wants to start helping the shopkeepers hand out their autumn catalogs next weekend, she murmured, a soft laugh vibrating against his back. He told me he wants to earn his own pocket money for a new bicycle. Kalen turned in her embrace, pulling her close and kissing the top of her head. A bicycle is a fantastic investment. I'll make sure he starts on the south side of the street. It builds character. Their wealth had tripled over the decade, fueled by sustainable commercial developments and global logistics partnerships, but their truest pride remained entirely detached from bank balances. That morning, they had received a handwritten letter from Maya containing a photo of the latest graduating class from the rural academy Vivian had designed. The children in the photo were smiling, holding up certificates of higher education, ready to pursue university degrees that would break their family's cycles of poverty forever. Looking down at his children playing in the plaza, Kalen felt a profound sense of absolute peace. The superficial illusions of his youth, the betrayals, the fake status, and the toxic metrics of wealth had long since dissolved into distant memories. In their place, he had built a fortress of genuine love, a thriving family, and a meaningful purpose. As the sun set, painting the city skyline in shades of deep gold and crimson, Kalen knew his empire was finally complete, rooted not in the value of his properties, but in the enduring dignity of his name. Did you know that over 80% of you watching right now aren't subscribed? Your one like and one subscribe means the absolute world to this channel and helps us keep going. Hit those buttons real quick